Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of Langer at the Mic, where we will be previewing Dallas Cowboys versus San Francisco 49ers this Sunday at noon. Yes, noon Central and 1 p.m. Eastern, and not in the primetime slot that it was originally scheduled for because it got flexed out for the Cleveland Browns New York Giants game. Anyway, I'm coming here with you today in my suit because I'm just fresh off of my TV class at the College of Sports Media, of course, on Fridays. And I'll be honest, I first want to say that I did overreact a little bit in my post-game reaction last week, but that was also because I did not know that the Saints would win, that the Eagles would beat the Saints and that the Chargers would beat the Falcons, and yesterday that they beat the Las Vegas Raiders and go to 5-9 on the season. Whereas in this game, the Cowboys now are 4-9 coming into this one to play the 49ers, who are 5-8. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about LP Ladouceur. Monsieur Louis-Philippe Ladouceur, the long snapper of the Dallas Cowboys, number 91, born in my hometown of Montreal, Quebec. He was born on March 13, 1981, and he is 39 years old. Shares my mom's birthday, by the way. He will be playing in his 251st game in the NFL, which will be the most by a Canadian in the NFL. So on Sunday, LP Ladouceur, Louis-Philippe Ladouceur from my hometown of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, will have played the most games by a Canadian in the NFL. Truly remarkable. And honestly, like, it's just so cool that how often do you get to see the French media, LDS, interview someone on a Dallas Cowboys player? How often do you get to see that? Like, that was just really cool to see this week. And honestly, félicitations, Louis-Philippe. Just like, honestly, bravo, man. Congratulations to you. I don't think, is there anyone in the NFL or any other sports league that does their job as consistently and as steadily and as effectively and for as long as LP Ladouceur has done his? Okay, yeah, maybe you could find a little bit outside of sports, but still, just think about the NFL. I don't think, and I know, yeah, okay, LP is just a long snapper. He snaps footballs, but of all, like, how often does he have a bad snap? Since 2005, he's played every single game since 2005. Every single game for the Cowboys. That's 15 years. And how often has he had a bad snap, especially on the big stages? How often has that ever happened? I don't think it's ever happened. So just honestly, congratulations to LP Ladouceur, who has just had an awesome career from Montreal, Quebec, as a Canadian playing in the NFL. Even if it's just snapping footballs, félicitations, congratulations, LP Ladouceur. But now let's get into a little bit more news from this week. By the way, coming into this game, Jalen Smith had some interesting comments to say. By the way, Jalen Smith, I don't think he even knew that the game got flexed out of prime time. And his response to that, when the media told him, he went on to say that if the owner ain't tripping, we good. Now, to me, I'm not going to put too much into this, as a lot of people are. To me, I think that's just something that comes from being in a lost season like the Cowboys are right now. And the players know. Yeah, they say they should at least try their best to say the right things to the media all the time. But I feel like they know that it's a lost season. And but then again, do you ever think that a defensive player coached by Bill Belichick, like, do you think any player on the Patriots but coached by Bill Belichick right now, even though they're 6-7, I think, yeah, like 6-7 going into this week, is there a single defensive player that would ever forget what time their game is at and say that publicly to the media? Do you think that would ever happen? If that ever happened, Belichick would probably cut them the next day. But anyway, like I said, I think it's more due to a lost season, and I blame that also more just on the just the whole defensive side of things. I just think if the Cowboys can bring in a much better coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball, the Cowboys will be okay in 2021 defensively. Maybe not great, but they'll be okay. And I would love to see Wade Phillips in, coming back to the Cowboys to coach up the defense. But anyway, that would be it for another episode of Lanker at the Mic. But let's talk a little bit more about this Sunday game against the 49ers. So the Cowboys on offense, let's look at the Cowboys offense versus the Niners defense. The Cowboys right now are actually healthy on offense, besides half the team being on IR, of course. So the teams that the players that are not on injured reserve, the offensive players that are not on injured reserve are all pretty much healthy, except for maybe Zeke, who's banged up with a calf injury. And the Cowboys have been moving the ball pretty well lately, since I would say even the Washington game, because they had that big 50-yard bomb to Amari Cooper. But here's the thing, though. Against Washington, naturally, the Cowboys only scored 16 points. And against the Ravens, they scored what, like 17 points? And against the Bengals, 30 points. But still, here's the thing. San Francisco, despite all the injuries that they've had this year, they are still a top 5 defense. They're number 5 against the pass. They're number 8 against the run. Their secondary has been solid, led by Jason Verrett and Richard Sherman. Former Cowboy Kerry Hyder on that defensive line / edge as an edge rusher could be a Pro Bowler this year with 7.5 sacks. They still have, Kinlaw and Eric Armstead on the defensive line. So the Cowboys are going to have some difficulty moving the ball in this one. They might have more difficulty than they did against Baltimore and more difficulty than they had against the Cincinnati Bengals last week. And the Cowboys, even though they've been moving the ball decently well, they've had a very hard time finishing drives with touchdowns. And they've had to rely too much on Greg Zuerlein to kick field goals in Baltimore, and we know what happened there. So to me, the Cowboys, it'll be tough to get the running game going with a banged up and mediocre Ezekiel Elliott, and a mediocre Ezekiel Elliott. And even though, sure, he's playing hurt, and I commend him for that. Even if he's been healthy this year, he's had like 3 or 4 good games, but the problem is, like I always say with Zeke, he has to be great. He has to be a $90 million running back and play up to that 4th overall pick, which isn't on him. He was picked 4th overall, and the Cowboys offered him $90 million. Well, actually, no, it is on him because he held out of training camp. So you got your money, and okay, you're hurt right now, Zeke, but Zeke has to be better in 2021. But against the 49ers, it will be tough for the Cowboys to get the running game going. And I think the best matchup for the Cowboys, honestly, will be Amari Cooper because of his route running ability. He could take. I think he'll win a few reps against Verrett and Richard Sherman, even though they've been really good in that secondary, and also Jimmy Ward at safety, of course. But I also want to look at CeeDee Lamb in the slot. I think this could be another big chance for CeeDee Lamb to put up some good numbers, because after Richard Sherman and Jason Verrett, the 49ers are kind of banged up in the secondary with Emmanuel Mosley and K'Wan Williams, both questionable this week. So that'll be interesting to watch. I think, like I said, CeeDee will put good numbers especially if one of those 2 slot guys for the Niners can't go. And Amari Cooper, as usual, will win a few reps against whoever is covering him. So I think those are the best chances for the Cowboys on offense. And now on defense, let's look at the Niners offense against the Cowboys defense. There's great news for the Cowboys this week in their secondary, because it looks like Xavier Woods, Donovan Wilson, Anthony Brown, and Trayvon Diggs will all be making their return on Sunday. I'm very excited to see what Trayvon Diggs can bring and for him to get more playing time in these last 3 games. And same for Donovan Wilson. I want to see Donovan Wilson bring that physicality and that edge to this Cowboys defense that was really lacking, I think, in that Baltimore game for sure. And the Bengals doesn't really matter because they were the Bengals, but still, I really want to see what Donovan Wilson can bring. And I tweeted this before. With a good defensive system, I think the Cowboys can be okay at safety. Not good at safety, but okay with Xavier Woods and Donovan Wilson next year at safety. So, but anyway, back to the game again. The bad news is, so that's the good news. The bad news is the 49ers don't have a brutally awful running game like the Bengals have. And like the 49ers are middle of the pack, but that will likely be good enough to gash the Dallas defense that is still worse than the NFL at stopping the run. And even against the Bengals were able to get a couple of good running, good gains in their run game against the Cowboys, even though it didn't translate to points, and even though they fumbled 3 times on their first 3 possessions. But even then, the 49ers, how did they make it to the Super Bowl last year? By running the football. And sure, Raheem Mostert is questionable, but Kyle Shanahan, I think he'll make it work. Whether it's with Jeff Wilson, Tevin Coleman, or Jerick McKinnon, if necessary. Just the 49ers, I think, look, they got to the Super Bowl last year based on their running game, and they've been feisty this year because of their running game. But that being said, if Dallas can somehow stop the run, if Dallas can stop that 49ers run game and put the game in the hands of Nick Mullins, I like the Cowboys' chances in this one, even if they struggle to move the ball offensively. Because if they just completely shut down the 49ers run game, then I like Dallas's chances, because Nick Mullins has 10 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, but he does have 7.6 yards per attempt and a rating of 85.7, a quarterback rating of 85.7 on the year. But I don't think that will happen. I still think that the 49ers will run the ball enough to just to make it to expose the Cowboys' terrible run defense. And I think Dallas will not get more than 2 touchdowns on offense, who will be okay. The offense will be okay. They'll get, let's say, 300 or so yards, but they won't be good enough. Just like against Baltimore, just like against Washington, won't be good enough. Defense will continue to be leaky, like I said, especially in the run game. And my prediction is the 49ers will come out on top 24-19 as the final. But I actually want to I want to talk about something that I was thinking about this week. Looking back at the last 15-ish years of Cowboys seasons, I noticed a bit of a pattern of when the Cowboys have been good and when they've been bad. Now, just to be very clear, this is a narrative. This has nothing to do with actual on-field or in-game stats or matchups or anything, but just a pattern in terms of their overall record from year to year in the last 13, 15 years or so. So here's why the Cowboys are due to bounce back in 2021, and that is lowered expectations. I think lowered expectations will give the Cowboys a great opportunity to be much better in 2021. And obviously, it doesn't take much to improve on 4-12 or 5-11, like the Cowboys will likely finish this year. But I think the Cowboys will get back to 10-6, maybe even better, and will definitely win the NFC East and will make the playoffs in 2021 because of lowered expectations. Here's why. And here's based on this pattern. And again, just to be very clear, just a pattern, just a narrative, nothing to do with actual football or anything like that. Just a narrative. But bear with me here. 2007, Cowboys go 13-3. Obviously upset by the Giants in the division round, and the Giants went on to win the Super Bowl, which I don't want to talk about, but yeah, they finished 13-3. But what came with that 13-3 record in 2007? Expectations. The Cowboys were expected to be elite again in 2008. But how did that finish? 9-7. Disappointment. Going into 2009 now. They had lower expectations because they saw, okay, maybe the Cowboys aren't quite a 13-3 team, but you know what? They're better than 9-7. And they were better than 9-7 in 2009 because they finished 11-5. That was the year that they went into New Orleans, and I believe they beat the undefeated Saints on Saturday Night Football in, I think, week 15, week 16, whatever it was. They also shut out Philly, and they beat Philly twice. And I think they shut out Washington that year. But the point is they finished 11-5. And with that came expectations again. 2010, Cowboys, they're hosting the Super Bowl at Cowboys Stadium. Tony Romo, I think I remember going into the pregame hype, whatever show or just something at Cowboys Stadium or whatever it was. He's saying, "Oh, we're gonna win the Super Bowl. We're gonna make it to the Super Bowl here at home." Blah blah blah. And what happened in 2010? 6-10. Romo got hurt. Offensive line old, bad. 6-10. Disappointment. 2011 came in there with lower expectations, and again, look, the Cowboys were 8-8. But that was better than 6-10. Now in 2012, but the problem with that 2011 team is the Cowboys it was a secondary. It was Terrence Newman being not as good as he originally had been, and he ended up going to Cincinnati and Minnesota, I believe. Yeah, and ended up being better there. But still, the narrative was that the Cowboys had to fix the secondary. So they did. They traded up for Morris Claiborne, and they also signed Brandon Carr in free agency. I think it was Rodney Poole at safety as well, who didn't make it out of training camp. And so higher expectations going into 2012. And what happened? 8-8, disappointment. But then 2013, you revamped the defense. You switched Rob Ryan for Rod Marinelli and, of course, Monty Kiffin. And what happened? So you have the expectations to do well in 2012. And what happened? Disappointment, 8-8. 2014. Now, you're thinking, oh, the defense is just god-awful, like historically bad, which it was in 2013. So you have much lower expectations. And what happened? 12-4. Finished. And basically a controversial call away from going to the NFC Championship game, right? So that was 2014. And with that came high expectations going into 2015. And what happened? Romo got hurt in week 2, 4-12, major disappointment. But then after that, you draft Dak and you're like, your expectations are lowered again because, again, Romo's out. And you're just thinking, the Cowboys, they're going to barely make it to 5. They'll be lucky if they make it to 500 with Dak under center. But what happens? Magical 13-3 season. And with that came even more expectations going into 2017. But the reality is Ezekiel Elliott got suspended, but also Dak wasn't quite at that level to command a pass, a pass heavy offense. And of course, Dez was regressing and the receivers weren't as good. And like I said, Zeke got suspended for those 6 games. And what happened? Disappointment, 9-7, which lowered the expectations going into 2018. Oh, you have no receivers. Jason Witten retired. You cut Dez Bryant, and you start 3-5. But then what happens? You trade for Amari Cooper and you beat the Saints again at home on Thursday Night Football. And all of a sudden you're 10-6 and you're a contender again. And you make it to the divisional round. You win a playoff game, make it to the divisional round and lose to the Rams. But, the Rams ran all over the Cowboys, but in that divisional round game, of course. But again, at least the expectations were increased. And going into 2019, the Cowboys improved their defense, improved their offense. They signed Robert Quinn. They signed Randall Cobb for Cole Beasley, cheap contracts, but they were, thought to be productive and effective enough in terms of changing and obviously bringing back Jason Witten. And what happened? Coaching drama, just complete dysfunction between the coaching staff and players, 8-8 disappointment. And then, so you fix the coaching staff. The problem was the coaching staff. So you fix the coaching staff. And in 2020, you're expected to be much better because here comes Mike McCarthy with a Super Bowl a Super Bowl in his back pocket and leading Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers to multiple playoff appearances, multiple winning seasons, multiple playoff wins, and basically half your roster gets hurt on offense, and the defense was a major disappointment. So anyway, all this to say, if you've been following along, all this to say is the Cowboys will likely have lower expectations going into 2021, and as a result, they will have an opportunity to be one of the most improved teams in the 2021 NFL season, which again is just a narrative, but something to look out for. And now for the tank. So that's pretty much it for our show today. Just for the tank, I will say this. I will hope the Cowboys win if Denver beats Buffalo, if Carolina beats the Packers, if the Texans beat the Colts, if the Lions beat the Titans, if the Falcons beat the Bucks, if the Eagles beat the Cardinals, and if the Giants beat the Browns. Then heck yeah, hope the Cowboys win because that will keep the Cowboys at 4th overall because like I said before, huge win by the LA Chargers against the Las Vegas Raiders yesterday, even though they did everything they could to lose that game. But anyway, happy holidays, everyone. And also, I did want to mention that I am working on a draft research project, just a little personal thing to work on during quarantine, during the holidays. And I plan to make a video on it in the winter sometime going into this, with the hopes that, or the knowledge that the Cowboys will have at least a top 10 pick, maybe not a top 5 pick, but at least a top 10 pick. And yeah, just just wanted to tease that a little bit, but I'm working on it and I hope to make a video on it in the new year. But once again, happy holidays, stay healthy, stay happy, stay safe, stay well. And thank you so much for watching this Langer at the Mic live episode and see you again next time.